Now, when I was gone, oh, you know what? I forgot to delete that. So if you fast forward, blank it out. Okay. All right. My bad. When I was on sabbatical this past summer, I discovered how blessed you all were when people of our congregation shared the word, when they gave the message, when they shared their faith stories. I know you were blessed because I got to watch those each week on YouTube. We post all of our sermons up on YouTube. You can find it at Salem's website, a link. It's www.salemdwd.org. And I watched them. I discovered how blessed you were when I was on sabbatical. When I have returned, one of the things that I've heard time and again, can we continue doing that sort of thing? Because we found it so honest, so real, so heartfelt. And I want to say that, yes, we want to continue these things that you folks have been experiencing this past summer. So we had someone else last week lead worship. I didn't need to. I didn't. Or today we had repeat here for the children's message. Today we also have two people here who are going to share the message with you today. Most of you perhaps know Kim Coughlin. Kim is a longtime member of this congregation, chief of police in Crosby. And she really wanted to share during my time away. And for scheduling purposes, it didn't happen. So she's here today. And joining her, John Billington, good friend of hers for many years now already. And together, they're going to share what they're going to share. Let me leave it at that. Kim and John, if you
Good morning. Good morning. As Pastor Dave said, I'm Kim Coughlin. I've been a police officer for, I just started my 25th year in law enforcement. And I thank you so much for allowing me the chance to be here today, as well as my friend John Billington, and I'd like to introduce him. John has been a police officer for 30 years. Him and I worked Minneapolis Police Department for many of those years together, and I couldn't think of anyone better to assist me in doing this. In preparing for this, I thought this is such a unique opportunity to be able to share police work, what we do in police work, and what we do every day in the field with everybody here in the congregation and everybody out there that may watch this. We've never done this before. But it's something that I think is important to share because we are battling in a war every day. And as you saw up on the screen prior to, I kind of got voted out on that. I wanted to put those on the screen and I got voted out, so it was meant to be. Pastor David John said, no, that's going to be too much. And I said, well, we have to show the billy clubs because that's what they started with. And anyway, if you saw those, that's what we started with many, many years ago in police work. And we have evolved into now getting into a kind of a system or a series of weaponry that I'd like to take you through to fight our battles daily on the street. In doing so, in 25 years of law enforcement, I've definitely evolved and changed as well spiritually. And I think what John and I want to do is connect the police world with the protection of the spiritual world, and how we do that, and the preparation and the training and everything it takes to be prepared as a police officer, and everything it takes, the training, the worship, and everything that we need to prepare ourselves for the spiritual world. So in that, we wanted to tell a little story about how we first met, and it's a little bit unique. It really certainly defies logic. It defies normalcy, how we met. And in looking back at it, we know it was God-driven. We didn't know it at the time. We certainly know it now. There's absolutely no doubt it was God-driven. So I'm going to have John tell a little bit about himself first, and then tell how we met, and then we'll get into showing you all this neat stuff up here.
Good morning. This working? Yes. Okay. As you heard, I've been a police officer 30 years. What you didn't hear is that last Friday I retired. So I made it, sort of. I made it. And when I was working, I think I was on maybe about, when did you start, Kim?
1989.
Okay, so I was on like maybe 4 years, and I did a number of things. I worked rotating shifts, and I worked power shift, and I also trained out at the police academy where we ran with the young recruits and everything like that, and that's where I first ran into Kim. And all I thought was, oh, she seems like a pretty good cop. You know, we crossed paths a few times over the course of the years, and then it was like maybe, what, 1994? About 1994, and again, now when I started as a cop, I had been a Christian for 8 years. What do you know when you're 8? Or what I know now is what do you know when you're 28, 38, 48. The more I live, the more I realize how little I know and how much I have to rely on God. But, you know, I'm doing the best I can to try to live for God and do the right thing and everything like that with my sinful self being the way I am. And I have this dream. And I dream that Kim is crying and Kim is upset, and I'm thinking, I never dreamt about her in my life. And that's weird, but I'm just going to pray for Kim and everything's going to be cool. So God says, not in an audible voice, not yet anyway, He says, call Kim, tell her about the dream. And I say, ain't no way I'm doing that. She's going to think I'm hitting on her. She's going to think something's up. I don't hardly know her. I'm not doing it. But God has this way. You know, He keeps just saying, do you love me, John? Yeah, I love you. So why wouldn't you do it? Well, because I'm going to look like an idiot. Well, wouldn't you want, is it okay to be an idiot for me if I really tell you to do it, to be a fool for me? Now, I just got through reading something about being a fool for Christ. And I thought, all right, I'll do it. Okay? So I call Kim, and she goes, how you doing, Sarge? I go, great. I know this is going to sound weird, but I want to preface everything with, I'm not hitting on you, I'm not doing anything. And so I told her the story. Take it away, Kim.
The next line I thought was going to be, what's your sign? From around here. The day that he called, the night before that, I was involved in a situation where I was off duty, coming home from a part-time job. All I had at that, this is 94, 93, 94, all I had was a little holster with a gun and handcuffs. At that time, we didn't get issued radios that we could take home. We had to share them. And so I dropped my radio off. I was driving a little red Hyundai. I had, that's it, me, my gun, my handcuffs, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, which after we talked about this was about the time that he had his dream. And I heard a shot, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but I heard a shot. I followed a guy that I thought was involved in the shot that I heard, followed him down a one-way with my Hyundai, was dodging traffic because it was definitely bar closing, and followed him. I had, at that time, no cell phone. We didn't have cell phones. I looked for payphones. They had removed a lot of the payphones because of the drug dealing in the area that I worked. There was no payphones. I followed this guy, and officers were responding to the shooting scene at the time, and he'd start walking, and then I kept following him. And long story short, I followed him to what later I found out was a rendezvous point for him and the other 2 individuals that were involved in this shooting. Caught up with him, handcuffed him, squished him in the back seat of the Hyundai, of which there was a big gas grill in the back seat of the Hyundai. He said he couldn't fit, and I said, "You can fit." And I handcuffed him, and when I was handcuffing him, I observed 2 guys from about here to Cary going into the back of an apartment complex. At that time, I didn't know they were involved. I squished him in the back, took him back to the scene. Come to find out, they had just shot and killed a mother of 4 and on the street, and that's the shot I heard. Later, a few days later, I found out that the 2 individuals that went in the back of that building actually had the weapon that they shot the female with. And they observed me handcuffing probably the person that would get them in trouble. And later to find out I was in way more danger than I thought I was. Praise God, I came out of it good. Okay? The next day, I get a call from John on this stream. Again, it defies logic. Why? It's not a coincidence. It's something that was pre-planned. I believe that with my whole heart right now. After that, I met Faith, his wife, who's sitting here, and they convinced me, you know, after we became friends and maybe a year elapsed, and they convinced me to go to a Billy Graham program at the Metrodome. And like, an evangelist? Yeah, geez, okay. It was then and there, and I had been a Christian, I thought, you know, for my whole life, went to church my whole life. They convinced me to go to Billy Graham, and it was there with John and Faith that I rededicated my life to Christ. Had it not been for that whole series of events, that would have never happened to me. I just know that for a fact. We've been friends ever since. John has guided me, has taught me a lot. I owe him and Faith a lot. And again, I can't think of no one else that I would want to share this experience with and assist me in this than John.
Thank you.
Add anything to that?
No, you did a good job.
Okay. With that, I want to go into just showing, it's always fun to have props and see props in church, right? So I want to go in and explain a little of the things that we have up here on the table. First of all, these are the protective devices that we use in police work. These are what we use to protect you and to protect us. Mostly you, but us, of course, as well. Okay? Again, over the years, these have evolved from the billy club that you saw to the revolver to what we're going to show you, the long guns. First of all, the uniform. When I took this, John carried this for me out of the truck and said, "Could you have brought a full-size one?" So, uniform protects us in a lot of ways. We walk into a situation, and a lot of times it calms situations down. Just the uniform itself, the badge, the insignia, just showing that you're a police officer, and it does. It does do work for you. That's the uniform. Underneath of the shirt, again, it appears miniature, but it does fit, our bulletproof vest. This does not stop everything, of course. Not every round, not of every weapon, but it does protect our vital organs. Okay? The boots. Boots are important to police work. The soles are important for chasing people, and the boots themselves with heavy socks are important in the winter to keep our feet warm. And a lot of us wear steel toes, you know, in case we have to use them for whatever purpose that may be. I don't want to get into any details on that. Boots, very, very important. You in the health profession are going to understand the gloves, and it preserves us from what we call the mud, the blood, and the beer. The fluids, and you again in the health profession protect yourself every day with goggles and masks and gloves to protect yourself from getting any kind of diseases or infections of any sort. The taser. Hang on. Let's move to the mace first. Mace came before the taser. Okay, the mace is what we use to bring bad guys down a lot of times. Causes them to lose their vision and focus. And I've maced my partners a lot. Not on purpose, but with wind, it became ineffective. Ineffective. They've maced me a lot too. So we moved on. We kind of upped ourselves to the taser. Okay. I took the cartridge out so I didn't get John, because we need him here. We've moved up to the taser, and this is 50,000 volts. This, in effect, can bring a person down and immobile for a period of 5 seconds, where we can get them handcuffed and secured. This is a nice device. The radio. The radio keeps us in communication with dispatch. We need help in Minneapolis with 800 some officers, and many of them on the street at the same time you had help within 20, 30 seconds. You'd call for help on this, you'd get help. Very good device, of course, a protective device for us when we need help. Flashlights. Flashlights are good. We used to carry the big, huge flashlights, the big ones, and almost drag on the floor for me. Now we've gone to the little, nice, lightweight flashlights, again, to protect ourselves when we're in the dark. The belt carries all these things. Okay, when everything is on here, the belt carries all these things and allows us to be able to walk around, sit in a squad car, walk around, and have these devices close at hand. The handcuffs protects us from the bad guy's hands, obviously. I don't need to go into much detail about that. Securing somebody's hands, and a lot of times we have what's called a bully cord. We have to secure their feet. And depending on what state they're in, this helps us to be safe and secure. The handgun. This is a Beretta Vertec 9mm, and we've already made sure it's empty. Everything up here is empty, so just for your comfort level, it's empty. The Beretta, well, we know what we use that for. I don't need to go in much detail about that. Okay, the helmet. I'm going to move into something that I don't use too often because I'm not on the SWAT team, but thank you, Crow Wing County Sheriff's Department, for borrowing this stuff to me. This is a helmet that is a bullet-resistant helmet for going in on the high-risk scenes. Okay, this is very important for those on the SWAT team, because normally, if you have called SWAT or called Operation 100, what we called it in Minneapolis, you need the big stuff now. Now you're moving the big stuff because you know that stuff, or you know that you're going to need that stuff, or possibly need it. This is a shield when you go into a search warrant. Again, thank you, Crow Wing County Sheriff's Department, for the use of the shield. Again, bullet resistant and able to protect you as you go into a scene. Over here is our, believe it or not, this little device right here, this little police vest, is so important because a number of ways cops get hurt or killed is from vehicular traffic, believe it or not. Not necessarily by getting shot or stabbed, but because of drivers not paying attention. This protects us at night. Reflective, okay? You stand outside at a traffic stop or at a long time at a scene, an accident scene. This is what you wear along with the lights on top of your squad car. This is what you wear to show people that you're there so they don't run you over. John's going to hold up the AR. It's an AR-223. It's an automatic rifle, and we have recently moved to the automatic rifle. Again, it's empty. We moved from the shotgun to the automatic rifle in our squad cars, and probably 90% of the police departments around the world have moved to that as well. Again, we have moved from the billy club up to keep up with the war that we're in to the automatic rifle. This is just a neat gun. It's got a little red dot. It's dummy-proof. It doesn't kick. Accurate as heck. You can be a terrible shot, but not with this. You can really shoot with this. So, I think that's all. And then, did you want? This is the asp. John's very good with the asp. The asp is the new version of the old-time billy club. It's a collapsible device, so it can be secure in your belt and small. But immediately upon, again, just as John demonstrated, it's steel. It's effective when we need to use it in whatever kind of a situation we get ourselves into.
So, Lord willing, what I'm about to do is recite Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 to 18. The guy who wrote it was Paul. In police terms, we'd say AKA, also known as Saul, who essentially was a criminal. He killed people. He stood by when somebody'd say, hey, watch my coat, I'm going to kill this guy. Stephen, the first martyr of the church. So, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand, therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. That's in Ephesians 6, verses 10 to 18. This whole thing is about God. This is just a little extra. This is how God works in police work, in any field that you find yourselves in, to point to Him and draw us to Him. Like I said, when I became a Minneapolis cop, I'd been a Christian, a serious Christian, who started thinking about God, trying to do what God wanted me to do for about 8 years. And what do you know when you're 8? So I just think I'm going to be the best cop I can be. And I worked on the north side. We didn't even have body armor at that time. We had to buy it ourselves. But I knew this. We were in this old police station, and our workout room was like a cage, like you'd see in UFC. Sometimes they'd lock it, and you'd have to climb up 12 feet and slide through the top and get in so that you could work out. But what we were taught all the time is, there's a huge poster up, and there's a big guy doing squats, and on the back of his shirt was U.S. Penitentiary, and it said, every day you don't work out, somebody else does. Which is enough for me, because it scared me enough to, it's like, I got to work out, I got to stay healthy, I got to know the laws, I got to know what I can do to win on the street, I got to know what I can do to win in court so that I can avoid lawsuits, and they come all the time. When you're busy, when a cop sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, sometimes things happen, okay? So the career path at that time was you work rotating shifts. I worked 1 month of middle shift, 3 to 11 at night. Then you'd switch, work 1 month of days, 7 to 3. Then you'd switch. You'd work 1 month of nights, 11 to 7. Boy, was that tough on the body. Boy, was that tough on family. That was a hard thing. But my goal, the career path, was to get a regular shift, power shift, 7 at night to 3 in the morning. That doesn't sound regular, but if you got the same shift all the time, plus we didn't have to answer regular calls. We were kind of like the guys that our boss would say, the sergeant would say, got a job for you. Go to 2201 Fifth Avenue South. Arrest anything that comes out of that house. Make your presence known. Take down some bad guys. Do it legal. Do it right. But really put the pressure on. So that's what we did. And it was great fun. And it was a good job. But now, again, it's not about police. It's about God here. So I'm trying to live for God as best I can. And I'm working out all the time and running like the wind and lifting small cars. And I'm thinking, God is kind of saying to me, so John, you're all prepared for any kind of physical problem, right? Yeah, I am. Are you the toughest guy in the world? No. Could you die right now? Yes. But why doesn't it bug you as much? Well, because I know where I'm going when I die, Lord. You've got me. And so I knew about all these little police acronyms that they'd have. KISS. Keep it simple. No, I'm not going to say the last word because you guys probably know what it is. But I changed it to keep it simple, son. Keep it simple, sister. You know, just so that when things go bad on the street, you know exactly what to do. You got 3 or 4 quick moves or quick decisions that you can make. You don't have to think. You can just do it. Okay? Then there's also another one. When you're a detective, there's some, and again, I'll leave out one word because it's not nice. But it's goyakad. Get off your backside. Knock on doors. You got to get out and knock on doors, talk to people, see what they know, see what they see. So all these acronyms are blowing my head. And God says, okay, you prepare for this, you prepare for that. Everything in the physical. What's more important, physical or spiritual? Obviously spiritual, God. How good are you with this? God says. The Bible. Now another acronym I learned is Bible. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. And I thought, I'm not that great at it. God kind of says to me, so your asp works pretty good, huh? You bet it does. I've used it a lot and it works fine. And so then he says, if you just leave it in your belt, is it going to do you any good? Nope. If you don't take it out and let people know that you intend to do harm to them unless they comply, does it do any good? Nope. If you don't train with it, does it do any good? No. So what do you got to do? I got to know about it. I got to have it with me. I got to train. Now what I just did, memorizing the scripture, God, he's pretty decent with me. He's been real patient with me, but he goes, you know, when I was having a real hard time with this one person that I really didn't like very much, you know, he says, you got to memorize Romans 12. I can't. It's too long. I don't want to deal with it, you know. But he goes, you got it. You know why? Because just like your tool belt, just like all the tools, you know, just like the verbal skills that you have, when things get ugly, spiritually speaking, you got to have what it takes, or else you're going to fold. You're not going to make it. If I didn't have the short amount of time that I did with the Lord, and I had that dream, which I still chuckle about because I can't even believe I did it. But you know, if I wasn't as close to God as I was, I would have said, I ain't calling her. Forget it. And then we'd never be here today. So that what I'm trying to say is, just like we have to train in our jobs, whether it's police or any job, we have to train most importantly with what God says, because this stuff is all temporary, what we got going here. But afterlife, and it's really not afterlife. A friend of mine who just died of cancer, 50 years old, he goes, this is not life, this is pre-life. Real life is when we go to the other side. And we were in a spiritual war. Paul uses all kinds of wartime words, swords, shields. So it's not just some little la-la thing, you know. It's serious business, but when you know that God is with you, who can be against you?